Hi guys, right, we are at Tyler Guitars and Rich is going to...
Are we at Tyler?
I think we are. Anyway,
welcome.
We're here and we're going to look at some guitars.
We're going to do a little tour. We're going to start from the beginning
and see where the magic happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Beautiful. Let's do it.
First thing, obviously, is procuring wood. Got a bunch of different alders and mahoganies and mamaiwu. So we have the mamaiwu and different stuff. Now we can take raw lumber and turn it into what's called a body blank.
Yep.
But we have a company in Corona that takes care of finding us the woods, and they do a great job. So we store all the wood here. Over there, if you just point that direction, that's wood. We try to have neck wood for over a year just so it really acclimates to California.
Nice and stable.
We offer roasted. We don't offer anything that doesn't pass Jim Tyler's own sensibilities.
Yeah.
Like we tried a certain fingerboard wood that's, I don't even know if anybody's going to make it, but Luthier's Mercantile sadly went out of business, but they were making a thing called Royal Blackwood, and it looked great, jet black, but we built a guitar with it and it sounded pinched and weird, and Jim heard it, I heard it. We had a guy named Andy Hicks working for us at the time who was a master builder at Fender. He heard it, so that was that.
Right.
Looked great, but doesn't sound good. Number one, it has to sound great and it has to play well. Otherwise we don't do it. So roasted, everybody kept asking for roasted. So we built one with a roasted neck, and Jim was like, okay with the sound. He said, yeah, it changes it, but it's still a great sound, you know. And then same with stainless steel.
Yeah. Like
Jim refused for years, but then we heard stories of guys buying guitars over in Europe or Asia, and then having some guy refret their Tyler.
Yeah.
So we built one with some stainless, and Jim thought, yeah, it has a little more sizzle, barely. A little bit. But Jim didn't like the slinkiness at all.
No.
But he's like,
it's very
if a guy,
quick. There's just no resistance, is there? It's so slippy, isn't it?
And if you like that, then it's great.
Yeah.
And we realized you got the guys that do top 40 5 nights a week, and then you got guys in Indonesia who can't get their guitar to somebody to refret. So it's good to offer it.
Yeah.
If it would have wrecked the sound of the guitar, I can guarantee you Jim would have been an absolute no. But anyway, so that's the neck wood and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's Tyler guitars, so we got to have giant swamp coolers.
Yeah.
We can't have just
just
little ones. We got to
go all in.
So this is a fun little thing. It's a acetone recycler. So we use acetone for cleaning our guns. So normally you would clean a gun, it would go into a barrel, and then the barrel would get picked up by somebody to recycle and bring you clean acetone. Well, Jim realized, hey, I'm going to buy one of these, and so we put the dirty acetone in there, and it recycles and comes out with just basically paint in the bottom. And so it saves money, and it's good for the environment. Funny joke that Jim would tell is, the first 5-gallon can of acetone cost me $8,000, but then the second can was only $4,000.
Yeah.
And then obviously do the math.
So on and so forth.
Yeah. And now it saves us money, and it's good for the environment. So
always good.
So here's a RCNC called the Fadal. One of the first guys to get a Fadal and really start using it was Tom Anderson. And Tom was really integral to the beginning of Tyler Guitars' actual studio elite times in the '87. Jim's history goes back to the '70s. When Tom Anderson left Schecter, he was doing pickups and then expanded into bodies and necks. And once he did that and had a Fadal, Jim was able to do his shape on his headstock, because he wanted a different shape on the headstock even before he had to. A lot of people got the note saying you have to, but Jim already wanted to. So this is a CNC machine, and it cuts the bodies and necks to the point where, except for putting in the truss rod,
that's how it comes out.
Yeah. This hasn't been touched by a human yet. We cut the slots and the dots and the whole works. Now that I've upped production, we're doing crazy things like even that. I want to work on making that even smoother, because the less sanding, that thing is free once you put the wood on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the less I can have my guys sanding. We already did it to the bodies, and it works so well. I'm going to work on the neck. I actually have a buddy named Rip that I work with at Line 6 who's a mechanical genius with SolidWorks, so we're working on that. So over there you got sanding tables.
You said to me earlier about the you're very exacting about the weight of the guitars as well. So with the bodies, your vendor's basically just looking for the lightest woods possible. Then
that's why I should have said that over there. The company that we work with, they're constantly on the hunt for the lightest alder, and it's not because I apologize to wood guys all the time. I'm like, hey, look, I'm not the guy who's all like, we want to have the light guitars. It's we put so much paint on a guitar. We put like 6 to 8 ounces of paint on the guitar. I have to start with a certain weight, or it's over 8 pounds immediately. So we refuse to ship over 8 pounds unless it's like a couple ounces, because it's a Floyd and locking tuners and dome knobs and so
those heavyweight stainless steel frets.
They do weigh just a hair more. But yeah, so a fun story. This was actually at Schecter. Back when Tom Anderson worked at Schecter, this machine and one over there. And we still use it for a couple of things, but what's fun about it is, a lot of you know, and if you don't, Jim was over on Sepulveda in Van Nuys in a complex where Schecter was when it was an American company and they were making bodies and necks and parts. So when Schecter left and Tom left, they sold a bunch of stuff off, and there was a marble place next door had bought a couple of the machines. So when we moved in there, Jim saw him through the window and went over and said, what are you doing with those machines? And they said, we don't know what we're going to do with them. So we bought them back. So these were at Schecter back when Anderson used to work there. It's kind of fun.
And what do these get used for?
Like just a few different things, sanding off screws. I forget what Tucker uses it. Oh, on the bare arm contour. When he chops it off, he hits it on this. He's just used to it. So as you can see, though, as we walk through here, I came and Jim would do like 5-6 guitars, a week, and I've taken production up to 14, and so I'm running out of room. So that's the next step. But yeah, so just various stages of we do binding and scrape stuff, and you can request stuff, and your customers can ask, and I can just say no, but we'll think about it. We don't just wholesale say no.
As long as the guitar's still going to sound good.
Oh yeah. Well, there's stuff. If it's something that we think will be a detriment to the guitar.
Like where customers almost, they look at doing a custom order and they look at like woods and specs as like a tonal scoring system. So if like this is a 2, I need to make sure that I've got a 7 from this wood or something like that to get it there. But you end up with a dog's dinner of a guitar, don't you, in the end?
And I'm also careful to make sure if a guy, I've had a few guys that were like, oh my God, I got to get a Tyler. I played one, it's amazing, it sounded so great, so here's what I want. And then they basically spec out a guitar from another company. We'll just leave it at that. And I'm like, well, you should just go get one of those. Because, and then they'll go, no, this is what I want. And then they get it and they go, this doesn't sound like the guitar that I'm like, that's because you didn't order that guitar. So I try. We're still small enough that I care to, bother them or whatever.
You can look through an order and see whether it's going to work or not.
So over here you just got, typical machines you see anywhere, joiners, thickness sander. They call it a time saver because it's a sander, but it sands stuff to exact thickness for like fingerboards and body blanks and whatnot. So this is fun. This is an American company called Grizzly, but a company in Orange County made this apparatus to go basically on this edge sander. And this is a true 10 to swing radius. So the neck gets strapped on with the fingerboard down, and it gets what we call swung. And it's swinging actually from 10 to 12. It's not 10 and then we sand a little 12 into it, so that's kind of fun.
Nice. Cool.
And we do all the fretwork here. He's out right now. Everybody's out at lunch. Probably a good time to be walking around, but you don't get to see as much action.
Exactly.
But we press in all the frets here. Back there at the CNC, the guy at the CNC, his name is Gil Vasquez. He started Baker Guitars with Gene Baker, worked for Washburn and Fender Custom Shop, and ESP. I nabbed him from ESP. Sorry, ESP. And he's been great. And my other key guy is Ed Lang there, who worked for Ibanez Custom Shop and ESP Custom Shop. Anyway, so yeah, we're just gluing up tops.
Nice, look at that.
You know,
What was made for? What's going on with the iron?
to bend the top.
Oh, really? Oh, you
You
steam the top, yeah.
You soak it and then bend it with the iron.
Wow.
Until you get it where it kind of just sits
drops
on there
there.
perfectly. And then when you put it in the vacuum bag, boom. Ed and I actually worked together 30 years ago at Fernandez Guitars USA. And I remember the day he came in and interviewed. He was just a young kid, and he was working for not Ernie Ball. He was working for G&L. And I called him up, and he had just moved to Orange County. I said, "Do you want to come to work for me?" And I'm like, "Come on, man, come, let's do this." So earlier I was telling you guys, showing you old pictures, and I can send you those. So Jim built this when he left Norman's shop. He worked in Norman's Rare Guitars, and then when he left and had his own shop, he built this bench. So this bench had every single Tyler ever made is set up right here, all 8,000 of them now. And this serial number box has pounded every serial number in.
Oh, wow.
By hand. It's funny that we do all this exacting work and sanding and setting them up, and I'm like working them, and then the very last thing we do is
rudimentary kind of,
grab one of these and go tap, wham.
Yeah,
it's like, but there's a romance in it, Like Jim even was like, you're doing so many guitars. They make that one that holds all of them, and you just once, and you can pressure, or we can laser it in. I said, Jim, until this is slowing us down. Yeah. This is just so romantic, I'm like, I imagine there's probably some guy out there that would probably offer me a ridiculous amount of money to have this box of, things. But one fun story, you can use this or not, but on this arm of this bench, it says D Strum. There was a band that some of you might have heard of called Slaughter, and Dana was the bass player. And he was playing with a guy named Spanos, who had a hit with a song called Hot Cherie, which was also a hit for a band called Hardline with Neil Sean. And he was touring with him, and I was talking to Jim a few months ago, and he said, yeah, but I didn't meet Dana when he was in Slaughter or Spanos. I met him when he was playing for Bette Midler.
Oh, really?
So the guy from Slaughter, Up All Night, he was Some Say Love, But Jim took care of not only the session guys. One thing people don't realize, because the session guys are so prominent for our history, but he was taking care of. I worked on Jakey Lee's guitar. Jakey Lee, he didn't have a whammy. No. All that Bark at the Moon stuff was him bending the neck, and he would snap the necks off. So Jim would put like epoxy and then bolt it with bigger screws and all this stuff so he wouldn't break his neck off. But he did them, and Night Ranger, and you can go to our website and see all those bands from back then. But he took care of history, everybody. Not a big deal, but we have a laser, and it cuts out pickup parts and splines for the necks and stuff. So that's pretty fun.
What about like all the headstock logos and stuff like that, all the intricate stuff?
That's what Tom does.
You're right.
We don't. We have a guy in Colorado it's still a decal that's a rub-on. Right. So that's pretty much this room. So now, usually I cruise around, but to stay in line with sort of the flow, I'm excited. We're trying to find a bigger place, and I'm excited because I will lay it out so it's more of an assembly line. This is the spray booth. The only thing we don't let anybody shoot, we're not doing it right now, is just how we do a schmear. It's not like it's rocket science. Yeah, this is pretty standard fare. It's a fun story only because when Jim moved into this building, he realized that the expensive part of the spray booth is the fan and all the permits. Yeah. So he thought, you know what? I'm just going to pay extra for the carport. So you could paint a whole car in here, but his thinking was, I want to come in, shut the door, turn on the fans, and I want to mix my paint. I want to paint, and then I want to hang them on the hangers in one room, so you're not going in and out.
No,
you don't go in and come out with wet paint.
And
so you got to keep a room clean one way or the other. But this way, it just stays completely clean.
Yeah.
Gil, the guy that you were just shooting, Gil Vasquez, he worked at Parker, and they had this rotisserie for a Parker Fly because those guitars were such a weird shape. They wanted the paint to be as smooth as possible. So this rotisserie just turns the guitars, and we need that because before Tucker would have to come in every 10 minutes and turn the guitar so that the paint didn't all just run off the guitar. So Gil built this, and now that just keeps the guitars spinning until they're cured. Saves us time, you know, different stuff like that. But that's copper patina. This one's going to be
black ice.
Oh yeah. So that's going to be a schmear.
Yeah.
This is vintage vomit, I call it. Jim started doing more drips and more our current schmear. But then people were asking for that original, like they see Landau's original vomit or whatever.
So cool that no two are the same as well. Every guitar
it's a fingerprint. I can actually use it to track gray market guitars where somebody's trying to hide the serial number, and I just pull it up and I just match the fingerprint, and away we go. This young kid, I partner with, a lot of people will know this, I hang out in Rev Amps booth at NAMM. And Derek over there is just a super awesome guy. And one of the guys that used to work for him said, hey, I want to do a psychedelic vomit, but I want to do it with the colors of Miami Vice. So pink, blue, and yellow, and I found the colors and we did a vomit. And then another dealer said, can you do a schmear? Which you really can't, because solid colors schmear together and they just, so your red and blue would become purple. Yeah. It doesn't schmear well, but Tucker figured it out, and this has become hugely popular, which it's not my thing.
I love that.
It's all Vice schmear instead of Vice vomit, but it's all because of Kyle Karich, so pretty fun.
That's cool.
More sanding, typical stuff. Our buffers are over there. It's all pretty standard fare. This is fun behind you for some folks. People who've been to bigger shops know these, but this is a UV curing booth. We don't use it for everything because like the schmear has to kind of settle in and do its thing, but for a lot of stuff we can hit it with infrared and it's instantly ready to sand. It just saves us some time.
Amazing,
Here we wind all our own pickups, except for the Duncans that we use still because of the legacy, which is a great legacy. I was telling you earlier how Seymour and Jim go way back to the 70s when Seymour was just a repair guy as well and working on pickups and stuff. So it's a great legacy, but Jim spent years, once he started making pickups, to designing them how he wanted them. Like for instance, the Shark is sort of Jim's take on a JB, and we still use JBs, but it's his take on that. And then he always thought it just needed a little more top end, so that became a Super, you know, and then he spent a lot of time on the single coils that became a few different versions. None of the pickups that we offer weren't approved by Jim. It's not like he did anything for just for whatever.
He did it because he wanted to.
So these folks, Mike and Mariko, they have their own pickup business called Sonic Pickups. So he comes in part-time and does all that we need and more. He designed on the new 1987, he designed that little Herman head on the 5-way. I'll show you in a minute. But,
I think I've seen
and we do the pickup work, pickguard work here. But his company, I think I said, is Sonic Pickups. Killer. I actually met him because of Andy Hicks, my buddy who went to be a master builder at Fender now. I was happy for him. The day he came in, I was super sad for me.
What's the story with this one?
Just painted neck. Yeah, I just came up with a new price for that because that is a lot of work. I did a few, and I was just like, if we're going to keep doing it, then we got to raise the price a bit because it takes a lot to get this stuff off the frets and stuff. But this is called faux matching. We can't do a schmear on a neck. There would be you would fill in. There would be no frets. It would be so much paint. So Tucker and Jim, I think, was involved in it. They came up with faux matching, where it's more like a layers, like a vomit, but it matches the guitar. There's certain things we can't do, like that vice smear, totally awesome, but we can't do a faux matching neck because the faux matching neck is a vomit.
Oh,
you know,
that.
so you end up with a smear here and vomit there, and it doesn't work.
No.
But a fully vomited guitar, you know. So if you got that 80s cover band that you're in, covering The Cure, this might work for you.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's got JTO originals, you know, and all the switching and stuff. But yeah,
If all works.
pretty fun.
Of course, it's quite an important kind of vibe as well, this one.
Yeah, that one is that's a straight up burning water. I just picked up this dealer, you know, that after this in there, but Guitar Sanctuary in Dallas. Met the guy at NAMM, big fan. I thought I had a. That's almost an '87, but not quite.
What's this
But
one?
yeah, we can do traditional.
Yeah, it's cool. Just cool to
Traditional
show off
stuff.
some examples of what you do as well. Like this, is that the? That's,
The Huff.
yeah.
Yeah. The Huff. He actually still plays this actual guitar, and I saw it in his studio when I was there a couple months ago. I built him. When I came on board, I reconnected with Dan because Dan had moved to Nashville, and Jim kind of lost track of him. They're still friends, but he just kind of lost track of him. So I hooked up with him, and he was like, we got on the phone, and he's like, Rich, do whatever you need to do because I can never repay Jim for what he did for me.
No, sure.
And I was like, oh, that's nice. And I kind of almost didn't understand. He said, yeah, when I moved to LA, I was 22 years old and I was scared out of my mind. And Jim, I bought a Strat. Andy Brower hooked me up with Jim. He did this thing to it. It's exactly like it was the day that I picked it up, except for the Wilkinson. His Dave Graff, his tech at the time in Giant, took the Floyd off and put on a VS100. But otherwise, that guitar hasn't changed since then. He said, and I got gigs and I put my kids through college, you know, all that stuff.
Made some serious money out of that guitar.
Yeah. So
Look at this.
I said, you know, we want to do the yellow classic. We want to call the black classic a Dan Huff black classic again. And I said, what can I do for you? And he's like, I don't know, build me a guitar. So I'm like, well, I mean, what do you want? He goes, I don't know. And I said, well, what we're doing currently, the big thing that Jim does is it's called an HD, a Studio HD, which is just passive guitar with the ability to add the preamp. But it's total bypass on the button.
Yeah.
And then as a lark, I said, knowing he's more of a traditionalist, I sent him a white schmear picture. And I said, and if you wanted to do a schmear, this one kind of has a marble vibe to it. And he saw it, freaked out. So now that guitar is in Colorado, and he uses it when he does sessions in Colorado. I think his daughter lives there.
Oh,
so
okay.
this is the white schmear.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, it just has more like, it looks like a piece of marble.
Yeah.
So for the guy who wants our crazy finish but is a little more conservative, this vibe is more like
That's
marble than.
on the back there, that rounded off edge there, like that's just all those little details make so much.
Well, Jim did that because just so the springs don't catch on it at all and make noise.
I don't think I've seen that before.
Yeah. Once in a while, a guy requests no tremolo, and we'll do no tremolo, and I mean it looks nice anyway.
Yeah, it looks sweet,
but we'll go even further with it and make it really, really nice looking. Gosh, what else is
there
fun?
a Malibu here? I don't think there is there?
Oh yeah, a couple of them. This isn't quite an '89, or sorry, '87.
Yeah.
But Malibu schmear.
That's cool.
If it was I forget. Oh yeah, he wanted classic stacks and a couple other different things. So this is for a guy who plays in the worship market. But yeah, kind of fun. And gosh, what else is? Well, there's this. Did we pop this out? This was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of a throwback.
Drop top kind of vibe thing, yeah.
And then no, vent top.
Vent top, sorry.
Drop top is
Yeah.
TA. Actually, I
In the
love
vibe.
Tom Anderson. No, you can actually put that in there. Tom Anderson is literally one of my gurus.
Yeah.
I mean, besides talking to Jim, I'll call Tom all the time. And one thing that's fun now that was different back then, back in the 80s, it was Valley Arts and Jim and Tom and different guys, and it was always like a who's got what customer and how many customers are there.
Yeah.
But now at this point, we've all realized there's tons of customers.
They all own the brands,
all
don't
of
they?
them. Yeah. And so I talked to Tom, and Tom talks to John Sir, and I talk to John Sir. And, you know, I mean, we all like help each other. I can't find this wood. Oh, here, you should call this guy or whatever. It's like,
because it's really not you guys up against each other.
Yeah.
It's you guys against the
big guys.
The behemoths.
Yeah. And we're happy that they're there. But I always say it like this. It's like, you know, Ford makes a GT 40 and it's a killer sports car, but it's not a Bugatti.
No.
You know, so the big companies have their custom shops and it's amazing stuff. But we do amazing stuff. But we're still like doing it by one off and by hand. So
that burst one there as well. It's got a nice top on there as well. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's lovely.
Bigger patches,
and
kind of a more
what are these
traditional.
pickups then?
We call them JTOs now, James Tyler Original. But honestly, they are. When we would get pickups from Anderson, we would have him line the bobbins to our spec, and then we would put on the magnets, and we used to do all kinds of crazy stuff to get it to where Jim wanted it. But underneath this pickguard, there are 2 canceling coils.
Oh, right.
And that gives you the ability to have humbuckers. They're not magnetic, so you can have your series in parallel.
That's a great looking guitar.
These are the pickups that were on Lukather's Puffy guitar.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what I was telling you earlier when we were having breakfast, is recently 80s are coming back. So I was like, you know, either using Seymour Duncan's, which is great because of the legacy, or the JTOs, which is legacy from the Anderson days.
Yeah, there seems to be a shift, you know, from people saying it, you know, it's got to be vintage correct, super spec, you know, all this kind of stuff. Now there's a trend towards the actives and the extra
all
switching
that stuff, all this extra switching.
Well,
So I was lamenting because Jim has spent 20 years developing his own humbuckers and true single coils, and then all of a sudden I was just driving and I was like, I don't know why it didn't hit me earlier, but probably because it's been this surge, you know. At first it was a few guys wanting, you know, that thing, and then all of a sudden I know it hit me. I was like, I came in and I talked to Mike and I said, hey, why don't we just make canceling coils that go with our single coils? And he did an amazing job. Like the first set was already good enough, and then he kept refining it so that when you go from single coil to series, there's barely a roll off on the top end. You're just going to get that regardless. But it's so subtle that if you had to have that noiseless gig, especially like church gigs or anything with in-ears, you know, in the old days, if you had your 60 cycle hum or a buzzy amp, it was you and your amp. But now it's in everybody's head.
I know, everybody,
It's like, so, but it'll get you through the gig, so now you can go from true single coil Stevie Ray Vaughan Hendrix to full-on 80s in the same guitar with no compromise, which is pretty exciting.
That sounds a bit of me.
Yeah.
I'll have a bit of that.
We have different stuff, like this is called a tinted series. We basically do a black schmear, and you can tint it fuchsia or turquoise or green or whatever we have. Blue, we have like a royal blue we tint it with. It's funny how it goes in waves. Like we have a Jim Burst schmear, but then we have a Jim Burst over cherry red schmear. It gives it a slightly different vibe, you know. So hopefully I'm putting them back in the right place.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
What are you doing to me? Here's one that's kind of being, oh no, this is different. Oh, that's cool.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
That's like that one, the one that was over there, yeah. That's great.
I love the big patches. You get a Caribbean splash, Jim calls it, and it looks like an ocean. It's pretty fun. But, anything else over there?
Amazing.
No, that's pretty much it.
We're super buzzing. We're psyched to get some guitars on order and
of course,
add it into our inventory.
You know.
Cases.
Do you know the story with G&G?
No.
By the way? So G&G quality case goes back to, I have a Fender, a 64 Fender in my Duosonic. It's actually the first guitar I ever touched. My uncle had it. And that case was made by the same machines that made these. The guy who owns it now is Jerry, and his dad owned it, and his dad worked for a luggage company. So when Leo Fender finished the first Heli, well, there was no guitar case manufacturers so he went to a luggage place and said, can you make me a piece of luggage? Yeah. And that's why it's all tweed and looking like the luggage you see in the 50s movies. Amazing. So those same machines cut our machines, and they have extra special embroidery in them, you know, with James Tyler. And Jim always wanted a big, you know, to be able to put sheet music in your case and not fold it in half. And now everybody's iPads.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Now you can fit your iPad in there. You know, so pretty great and wonderful company. We just, you know, anything that we can do that, you know, stays made in the USA, we love doing that. You know, it's not possible to have everything, but
of course, yeah.
whenever we can, we love it. You know, so.
How long is the process then? I know that it depends on finish, etc., etc., from start to finish.
Doesn't
of the
matter.
guitar.
Every single one is 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. We some go faster.
Yeah.
But everything's done in 8 weeks, and that's from the day we start it until it ships out.
Yeah.
Is 8 weeks, and I have slots. So like if you have a customer that, man, I want to get this such and such guitar, you have your slots. Sometimes I can jigger slots around. If somebody's like, I'm going on tour and you know.
The thing is, it's like, you know, with some other companies we've dealt with in the past where it's everything just goes to the end of the queue.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Like, and 18 months, 2 years goes by. The dudes or whoever the customer is, then, you know, they're going to want something else by that point.
They will.
You know,
no, it's totally.
Or they want to change all the specs because, like you said with the, you know, the video that just came out with Mason and Dan and stuff like that. I want these pickups now, this wiring now, and all that stuff.
Or Sean plays his Tyler, or somebody else gets a Tyler, or just Joe Schmo gets a Tyler and he puts it up. Oh my God, you're doing what?
I need this now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I figured that out pretty quickly. Jim used to have like a stack, and he was back ordered a couple years.
Yeah.
And it was just, it's fun to say, I guess, but it wasn't anything that really mattered. And even dealers who knew what they wanted and had them ready to go, by the time I got to their slots, I would say, okay, here's the 5 we're starting. And they go, oh, no, we need 3 of those. And one of those that you posted the other day.
Yeah.
And then I have a custom. So it's like, no, slots.
It does make me nervous when customers start changing like specs, you know, throughout the process and that. And, you know.
Got to get it. Make sure it's nailed down before you give them the.
Yeah.
Or
there or
we'll accommodate, but it definitely is a wrench in the machine.
No, we just don't want it to turn up and then they're disappointed.
Well, or I missed something. It's happened. You know, nobody's perfect, and oh man, I did get the email. I didn't walk out and change the thing. You know, so I like it to really be nailed before I start it. So
plan is then we'll get some guitars on order. Try and get some guitars so our Peach customers can come and check some out, and then just have some slots so we can do some custom order guitars and stuff for people. So,
and they can reach out to me on, you know, info@Tyler Guitars if they got questions before they talk to you.
Sure.
I don't mind talking to, you know, your customers. Sometimes it's easier.
No, it's great.
You know?
And makes them feel good dealing direct, you know, and all that kind of stuff.
We're still small enough to do that.
And there's a lot for us to take on board as well, with all the new pickups, switching and all that stuff as well. So
like I was telling you when we were having breakfast, that I thought it's pretty straightforward, but I've been living with this switching system for so long. Yeah. And I started doing a bit quick. I thought it'd be a quick video, 1-2 minutes. I'm just going to show you what it is, and I started realizing there's nuances, even as simple as it is. So, but
there's a lot of stuff, cool stuff to remember. Cool. But by the sounds of it, all this stuff that you do, the switching, is done for a real reason. It's not for like, you know, just because.
Well, like I was saying at lunch, Billie Jean, you know, is the quintessential clean tone that Jim helped create with Series Parallel.
And it's not tapped.
No tap. No, not split. It's definitely parallel.
We're super excited to finally get some guitars. It's happened in the end. We got there, and we're going to be super psyched to add them into our stable of amazing guitars. And we're just really excited to be working with you, Rich. So awesome. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.